Okay, so I welcome you all here, and people will let themselves in when they want to. And I think I'll start when I can move on. Right, welcome. It's week 7 of this, and this time we are in the 7th letter of the Hebrew alef-bet, which is zayin. Looks like a vav, but actually the line goes across rather than just a tiny little bit. Like the vav, it's going to go across. It's just that bit more. So keep going as long as my voice will keep going, because it's been a bit coughing and spluttering. So far, just to remind you, we've talked about the shape of the letters, what they actually look like, the sound of the letters, their meanings, their number, gematria, the meanings of those gematrias, what they connect to, a little bit on Kabbalah, on attributes, midot, types of characteristics that create the world, and a little bit of Sefer Yetzirah, which is very much about the letters and making this 3-dimensional space, which has time in it as well, and history and stories. And we'll do a little bit more on that in a moment. So that's a very quick recap. We're in zayin, which is this letter here, za, and that's how the word for zayin, because in Hebrew, as you know, all the letters have words attached to them. They actually mean something. So this is zayin. This z sound, zayin, 7th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which means it has a numerical value of 7, and it sounds like a z, as in zebra. And it can mean a crown. Its usual meaning, though, is a sword or weapon. And it also has links to sustain in things that keep going, sustaining, and I'll show you in a second. It looks like a sword, this letter. It's this letter here. I couldn't get rid of this line underneath to tell you it's this way up. It looks like a sword. It's got a handle and this vertical blade. Some people say it looks like a crown and scepter. I can't see that so much as a sword. So it alludes to power and authority. The z sound. It's a very masculine gendered sound. It's also, lots of the words are very masculine and gendered. Zakan, zaken means a beard, and zakain means an old man. So they are linked together. Old men are meant to have beards, I think. It also has a relationship to time, zaman, and where that sustain bit comes in, I think, is because zachar, meaning to remember. We have whole services. Yizkor is about you shall remember. There's a whole service in every year and in a few other festivals that are called the Yizkor, the remembrance service, remembering the dead. So it's got this other sound to it that isn't just the sword thing, but it's also remembering. It also has this masculinity about it because it also forms a lot of things to do with seeds and sperm and male type things. So zera, seed, that will help the seed that will fertilize the ovum that will actually make the seed proper, I guess. There's also a lovely one that Zohar. It's a book of splendor. It's a Kabbalistic book. It also begins with the Zohar, and it's a divine light. It means a divine light, a light that shines from one end of the universe to the other. Adam Kadmon, the very first man, human, male, was shown one end of the universe to the other. And so this light was shining at that time. So it's a very special thing, the Zohar. When you've got incredible connection to the source of the light, you can see more light, presumably. That's what that's about. And so zayin has lots of, not only does it mean sword and also sustain, but it also has lots of lovely words associated with it. Its gematria is 7, and of course 7 is sheva in Hebrew, sheva and ba in it can be Shabbat, is the 7th day. It's the holiest day of the week. It's very interesting that we have a festival that we celebrate every week. People say, which is your favorite festival? And I always say Shabbat, because it's every week, and it celebrates the creation of the universe. And it's not just a random event. Oh, let's have a rest. It's actually, it's remembering zachar. It's to remember that God created it in the universe in 7 days. And one of the commandments we have is to zachar, to remember, to sustain this moment in our memories. So 7 is the Shabbat. This Abraham Joshua Heschel has a book that I highly recommend called The Sabbath. And he talks about lots of religions have these huge monuments and places and stuff. And we have this architecture in time. I love the idea of an architecture in time. It's a very mystical idea, the Shabbat. 7 also reminds us of this 7th year. We had that last year. It was a Shemitah year. Every 7 years is a Shemitah or sabbatical. That's where sabbatical comes from. Shabbat and sabbatical. When you go off for a year from your studies. Well, the 7th is the Shemitah year in Israel. And you rest the land, you don't plow it, and you don't put fresh crops down. You allow the land to rest. It's like crop rotation, but on a massive scale. It only applies to Israel. You don't have to do it when you're living in other countries. But it's called a Shemitah year, rest year. And there's also 7 reminds of us of a Chachel year, when the temple still stood. Every 7 years, everybody came to the temple because, you know, people were living all over the land of Israel. They didn't go to the temple every Shabbat. You know, it's a long way to get to and back. They didn't do that. But every so often, for major festivals, the 3 major festivals, which are called the Reglaim or the Hajj festival that the Muslims have Hajj from. The Hajj festivals are because you actually have to go up on a pilgrimage to the tabernacle, and then it became the temple. And they were Pesach, to remember coming out of Egypt, Shavuot, to remember receiving the law at Mount Sinai, and Sukkot, which we've just been through, of living in booths for 7 days, 7 being a very important number. But every 7 years, apart from the Shemitah year, there was also this tradition of coming up to hear the Torah read by the king when we had kings. In fact, every king had to have a Torah scroll written for him, and so that he'd have it with him all the time. And every 7 years, he was obliged to read it to everybody to remind people. 7 sevens are 49, and 7 sevens are the 49th is the Jubilee year. And that was when you redeemed everybody and freed everybody from whatever they were doing. If you had land that belonged to somebody else on a leasehold, you returned it to the original owners. If you had servants who were on lease to you, they were free to go. So 7 sevens, 49. So 7 has this very interesting idea to it. To get into a bit more of Sefer Yetzirah yet, though, we've talked about a few different things, and 7 are the number of double letters that are in the Hebrew alef-bet, and we've done 3 of them: Bet, Gimel, and Dalet. Kaf and Pei are still very recognized. Resh, not so much. And Tav, some people use S and T. Gimel, less so, but we have done 3 of these double letters. And there's an idea in Sefer Yetzirah that you're building the entire universe from the 22 letters of the alef-bet and the 10 sephirot. Those they're slightly different to the ones in the later Kabbalah. Sefer Yetzirah is earlier, and the 10 sephirot are either directions, up, down, north, west, south, east. Those sorts of directionality. Sometimes they also have characteristics like beginning, end, time, and good, bad, soul, nefesh. So the Sefer Yetzirah sees the entire universe as a cosmic temple that's being built out of these letters, and we are the microcosm of this cosmic temple. And the letters of these 7 double letters give us the faces of the cosmic temple, the cube of the cosmic temple, with one being in the center of it. And so the idea that the center of the cosmic temple is sort of the most holy space, and therefore in the microcosm, the center of the of the microcosm version is the Holy of Holies in the temple in Jerusalem. So that's sort of the microcosm of this macrocosm. And so these 7 double letters refer to the faces of it. They have other characteristics to them. Zayin, I'm going to say, is one of the 12 simple letters. There are 3 mother letters, 7 double letters. We've had Aleph is one of the mother letters. 7 doubles, and 12, the rest of it are called elemental or simple letters. And Zayin is an elemental one. We've had a few before that have been elemental. I'll bet you can done Hey, and Hey and Zayin are them. And it's elemental 3. It corresponds in that chart that I showed you last time with God called the light day. And so this idea of light and Zayin and the Zohar, there's nothing accidental. None of these linkages of words and meanings are accidental. And I also told you about this Sefer Yetzirah, plays on the word Sefer, book of formation, forming everything out of these 32 possibilities, 10 sephirot and 22 letters. These 12 elementals play into this, everything's linked up. And I said this playing on the word Sefer, Sefer, Sipor, Safar. In Hebrew, they look very similar because the F and P are double letters. So Sefer, Sipor, Safar. Tome, tally, and tale is how we'd say it in English. Tome being a collection of ideas. Tally being a numbers. You're tallying up something. You're counting something. And a tale being the story of that you tell in the world. So there's all of this playing on, and Zayin rather, is not just an elemental 3. It's as I said, it's part of this God called the light day in the bits, the 32 channels that I showed you last time that make up all the start of the formation, all the lines in Genesis. They count into 32, which are the 22 letters and the 10 sephirot. And this one is the one which says God called the day light. God called the light day. In the Sefer Yetzirah, it also puts the letters together with different aspects of the universe, and these 12 elemental letters get constellations, a little bit like astrology. So the 12 zodiac signs, for instance, doesn't match completely, but and in one version of it, it says that Zayin is associated with Gemini. So that's its constellation, it's its space, or in Hebrew, olam. We talk about Olam, the whole universe. We sometimes call God Olam, the universe. So zayin is associated with this Gemini constellation. Each one of the elemental letters are associated with something. It also has a month. Sivan is the month it's associated with, which is to do with time, when a month comes up in a year. And time in Hebrew is Shana. And so it has an idea of space, this letter, as do each letter, an idea of time, and also a part of the body. For some translations, it's the body soul is the spleen that it is. There are other translations of it as well. So the body soul, your body soul, is your nefesh. It's the lowest level of soul because it connects to this physical world. We have higher, and neshama is your higher levels, ruah, neshama are higher levels, but the nefesh is that vitalizing thing that makes things alive, that we can't, I say as a biologist, can't quite get a hold on when we're talking about what's the difference between living things and non-living things. It's this vitality, and it's not to do with being dead, it's to do with things that were never alive, don't have the same nefesh as those that were alive, and we can't quite get it. But the body soul, if this is space, the universe, and this is time, our body soul tells our story. It's our individual soul time, space. It's our own space time, our nefesh. So each of the letters have some link to space, some link to time, and some link to your own nefesh. And that's the one for zayin. It's linked to your spleen. There are other translations as well. And also all these 12 simple elemental letters are also linked not just to your own personal your part of the body, they're also to fundamental or sort of activities of daily living, they'd be called in health. And I'm taking this translation from this particular book. Something other than just a body part, they also have links to characteristics that we carry out all the time. And zayin is linked to smell. So we've done hey, which is the first elemental, and vav, which is the second elemental. We've done both of this. This is the third elemental. So sight, hearing, smell, and we'll gradually get through these other 12 letters, which go speech and taste and sexuality and action and locomotion and agitation and laughter and thought and sleep. These are all sort of fundamental characteristics, not just body parts. And so there's this idea that the 12 elements also link on to these 12 activities. And I say this because some people use these sorts of ideas in Sefer Yetzirah in almost a sort of magical form of healing. And so if you've got a spleen problem, they'd say it's linked to zayin, and there'd be presumably chants or something around that. And it's also linked to smell. And so some people use it in almost magical formulas. There are, Jill Hammer would definitely say there are magical properties to all of this. That is up to you to decide what you feel about magic and these deep ideas. So the letters have all these different links, and zayin is, as I said, it's the links into Shabbat, being the 7th letter. It links into smell, and smell features quite a lot in the Torah. God likes incense and smells. And it links into a place on the body, but it also links, of course, into the cosmic temple. Just like the 7 double letters I showed you had those faces of the cosmic temple, the 12 elementals give you the borders, the lines of the cosmic temple. And zayin is is sort of they're sort of put like this, but of course the cosmic temple doesn't really have an up and a down, so this is very tenuous sort of stuff, but the idea of directions are east north, east south, east upper, east lower, and zayin is this east upper one, in this sort of cosmic temple, which reflects on the temple in Jerusalem. This is a very bad picture from Jill Hammer's book. I took it just before, and I've joined up with some drawings the actual idea of a cosmic temple, and these form the border lines of it. And here's Zion up here. Obviously it rotates, it's very hard to say it's at the east because it could whiz over, but they form these border lines with the 7 double letters forming the faces of it. So you've got this idea in the Sefer Yetzirah that letters have this huge stuff going on, that they form the cosmic temple, they form time and space and parts of your body. There's masses and masses going on with any of these letters. That's why I've been trying to introduce it very slowly, and I will go through bits of it again each time just to bring it back together again, because it's not easy. And I'm extracting from one book, but there are other slightly different versions because there are slightly different translations what people think the word means, because there's all that play on meaning as well. So I wouldn't try reading any of these books at the moment, but I'm just gonna sort of unfold as much as I can and link them to this very mystical level of the Hebrew alef-bet. So I'm hoping you're starting to realize how complicated it is. And I thought we should end by a meditation for zayin rather than for the entire cosmic temple. That would be too much. So let's have a moment, because for some of us it's been a very difficult time and we just need a bit of a moment to come back from wherever we've been. And I would suggest that you just make yourself very comfortable in your chairs and take a few deep breaths in and deep breaths out. Release, return the breath into the universe. And just relax into your body a little bit and be in your body. Just feel yourself in your body and what that means to you to be in your body. Feeling your feet and your legs and your arms and your belly and your back and your chest and your neck and your shoulders and your head. Just be aware that you've got this incredible body that you take for granted, that is, in fact, miraculous. It is statistically impossible, chemically impossible, biologically impossible, and yet here we all are. So just have a moment to enjoy that you're in your body. How do you tell your tale in your body and in your soul? Your body's got lots of functions and tales it tells. And the zayin is about aging and being here for a while and being able to be the sprouter, the seed for future stories. What stories do you want your zayin to tell? And what stories do you want your zayin, your zachar, to remember? And what stories do you want do you want other people to remember? So what are you going to sprout? How's your zayin going to manifest in your universe? Is it going to be a sword that will fight to your corner? Is it going to be a seed that sprouts tales and wonders? Which one is it going to be? What stories? What stories do you want to tell about you? What stories are the only stories that you can tell about you? Maybe none of us know them yet. Maybe you don't know them. Maybe you need to look in and see what's sprouting. And what do you want to nourish? Give a few deep breaths and come back out. And back into the room.